Hello and welcome to Digital Transformation and AI for Humans with your host, Emi. In this podcast, we delve into how technology intersects with leadership, innovation, and most importantly, the human spirit. Each episode features visionary leaders who understand that at the heart of success is the human touch, nurturing a winning mindset, fostering emotional intelligence, and building resilient teams. In today's episode, we are taking a closer look at combining AI with a winning mindset for business expansion beyond $10 million, together with my fantastic guest from Toronto, Canada, Rob Provenzano. Rob is international best-selling author, speaker, mentor, fractional CMO who knows how to drive over 300% yearly growth by using AI-powered systems. He has worked across various industries and collaborated with renowned speakers such as Les Brown, Tony Robbins, Brian Tracy, and many others. Welcome, Rob. How are you?
I'm great, and thanks for having me on your show today, Emmy. I really appreciate it.
Fantastic to have you. Let's start the conversation and transform not just our technologies, but our ways of thinking and leading. If you are interested in connecting or collaborating, find more information in the description below. Subscribe, like, and stay tuned for more episodes. I'd also love to invite you to get your copy of AI Leadership Compass, Unlocking Business Growth and Innovation, the definitive guide for leaders and business owners to adapt and thrive in the age of AI and digital transformation. Find the Amazon link in the description below. Rob, to start with, amazing to have you here in the studio.
Thank you.
And let's share a few words about you, about your journey, about all the inspiring things you created along that path, and how you came to the point where you are today, being that awesome Rob.
Yeah, great. And since you brought up some of the speakers that I've worked with and produced and promoted, a lot of it went back to, I was in university studying computer science, very depressed. And then a friend of mine gifted me Tony Robbins, Personal Power, like way, way back when I was the original ones. I won't go how far back, but it was on cassette. It wasn't even on CDs yet. So that's when, I fell in love with personal development and mindset and lining everything up. From there, I was recruited out of university to go start a brand new type of company here in Canada. I was working with, you probably know them now as like a Staples kind of thing where they do printing on demand. That didn't exist back then. We launched the first organization in North America to do that. And I was recruited out of university to go run that. From there, it got into process automation, marketing, sales, how to structure companies better. Then I got into finance because that was just a logical fit. Then I got into project management, went back to tech. After many years, I was a director of software development at a Fortune 500 company. Got downsized with the subprime crisis, got into marketing somehow. I'm still not quite sure how that happened. And then I got into producing events. I started producing events. I went down. I was trained by Joel Bauer, who introduced me to a lot of big name people. So I met, Tony Robbins, Jarek Robbins, his son, Brian Tracy, Joe Polish, Robert Allen, Mark Victor Hansen. And after I did a big event with Joel in Canada, I produced the event in Canada. And, Joel contacted a few people and said, this guy put 1,200 people in a room in 4 days for me. You might want to talk to him. And ironically, that was the very first version of the funnel we're still selling today. So it was version 1, and we called it the event filling funnel because, well, it was used to fill events. And from there, it's gone on. It's expanded. I got into marketing, went back into corporate for a while, worked with a lot of companies, helping them with their marketing programs, showing them what could be done. Before back then, that was pre-AI. So it was all manual. It was hard. Research was hard. People were guessing at their target markets. They didn't know what they were. Even big Fortune 100 companies were guessing at their target markets. They didn't know. They didn't have the research. Research was very expensive. You're talking anywhere from 35,000 up to 100,000 a year to get access to Gartner level market research. Then this AI thing came out. And I kind of went, hey, I could use this for marketing. and so back then AI wasn't that great. You had to train it extensively. And I started. It took me a while. But now when we offer solutions, it's, analyze the company, analyze the market, understand everything about your buyers, what they want, what they need, what they're willing to pay for right now. Now we script the communications, the emails, the messaging, if it's like on LinkedIn or Facebook, videos. We can even use the AI to create the videos now because people don't always like being in front of the camera. They don't feel comfortable. So all of that to say is, we've created this great tool, but bringing it back to the whole concept of this show, if you got the wrong mindset, it doesn't matter the tool you've got. It's not going to work.
So true. I absolutely love it. And your journey, it is so incredibly powerful. And I feel that you are the expert for closing those cycles, circles, and loops through the years and coming to the next level, and expanding from there, using the best of what there is from mindset and all the softer skills to the powerful technologies you have in your hands. What's really amazing. Rob, how do you see the synergy between AI and a growth oriented mindset driving business expansion beyond the $10 million mark? And what long term strategic trends, such as regulatory or market transformations, do you anticipate at this intersection?
It's a very interesting question right now with everything that's going on in the world. It's a little crazy out there right now. The biggest challenges I see and how AI and mindset go together is AI can do many things, not everything. As I was shoveling the snow the other day, and I went, man, I wish AI could do this. But
Someday,
yeah,
hopefully
someday,
someday,
hopefully,
well,
robots. Yeah. For now, though, if you don't really know how to grow a company, if you don't know why you're growing the company, if you're just doing it for the money, chances are it's going to fail because people do work for money, but that's not their main driver for people. People want to feel fulfilled. They want to feel satisfied. Not everybody, obviously, but many of us want to feel good about what we do. We want to know we're making a difference. We're contributing. We're helping people. And if you're not wired that way, the questions you ask AI are going to be very, very non-emotional, very automated, and AI is going to respond that way because it responds whatever way you train it. If you're not out there to help people and make a difference, AI will give you the answer. It may not be a good answer, it may not be an answer you're comfortable sleeping with at night, but it will give you an answer. And I think too many people are using it and they stop thinking. They stop looking at, well, what are our corporate values? Like I told my AI, here are our corporate values. This is what we're out to achieve. Now, everything has to be based on that. And I was explaining that to a couple of other people, and they're like, you put your values into AI? I went, yeah, of course I did. That's why it sounds like me when it communicates. Like, wow, never thought of that. That's the problem. You people aren't thinking about that. They're not thinking the big picture. They're just thinking it's a tool, but I don't necessarily have all the training on how to use the tool properly. So that's where the right mindset. And when, we started working with companies because we wanted to help them grow. The government always says small business is the backbone of our economy. But if you look at all the big programs out there, they're not for small businesses. they're
no.
for the big corporate companies that want tax breaks and this and that. And sure, they employ people, but if small business is the backbone of the economy, how do we help small businesses win and win big? And that's when we got into like growth and analyzing, well, what's required at what stage? So for instance, scaling up is a very different mindset and skill set than starting up. So
True.
a lot of times people say, well, why don't you work with more startups? I don't know how to start up companies. It's that simple. I know how to grow them, but starting them up in that chaos and the confusion, and you don't have any clear processes and procedures, it's too chaotic for me. My brain can't wrap my mind around that. I need, you're at a certain stage now, grow. And that takes a different mindset as well. It's okay. It's not just bringing in your friends and your family and the people that you love, and it's great to have them on your team, but you also need people that know what they're doing and are experts, not at everything. That's where you start segmenting. Like, okay, you have a sales expert, you have a marketing expert, you have a finance expert. It's not one job can be done by one person, or all jobs can be done by one person anymore. It doesn't work that way once you start scaling. And even more so as you start going beyond the $10 million mark and getting bigger and bigger, now the people that head up those teams aren't necessarily experts in that subject matter anymore. They're experts in what needs to be done and how to manage a team and how to build a team. Maybe, the CFO may not know how to do the payroll anymore, but that's not their job, right? Their job is to bring in the right people who know how to manage the payroll and make sure they've got all the support they need. And again, that's where the mindset comes in. It's too many people get it promoted and they go on this ego trip. It's really about how are you supporting your team? How are you making your team more effective? How is that supporting the company? Then how is the company supporting your clients? It's really about the right intentions at the right time at the right level. And not losing track of the sight that, yes, you are in business to make money, but you'll make money longer if you actually help people than if you just go out and make money.
So true. Exactly. And now I'm thinking about your clients, which scaled up with your help up to 9 figures, and
Yeah.
their mindset. What do you see in common in those cases, and how can you sum it up? Because I would love to share those treats with everybody who is listening to our interview today and watching this interview so they can apply it somehow to their mindset as well.
I think a lot of it is really part of the biggest challenge. And I'll say from companies that were doing, 6 figures went to 9. The CEO thinks they need to do everything in a 6-figure company. And they often do have to do everything in a 6-figure company. As you grow, you've got to be willing to say, you know what? That person may not do it the way I would do it, but I can't do it anymore. I can't do everything. I've got to start bringing in people and letting go of all the control. Now, it doesn't mean you shouldn't have checks and balances in place. Like, absolutely, you need that. But you need to realize you don't have the ability, typically, to run a multi-million dollar company if you've only ever run a small business. It's a completely different mindset. And you may have to, you might still be CEO, but you better bring in a COO who knows what they're doing and has run a big company. You need to bring in a sales manager who's not going to go out and sell per se. They're going to build a sales team and put in the sales processes. So it's learning to be way more hands off and learning to be able to delegate and set up a support system for your people that are now running your company. And that is often the biggest challenge a lot of CEOs face. I've had some where they say, okay, great, we're growing. Now what do we do? I say, well, do we have your vision? Do we have, like we've got all that? We know where we're going. Yeah, great. Now what do I do? Go home. They're like, what? Go home for 4 months. Let me fix this company. I don't want you in the office because I need to make some changes. And that's often a challenge because they want to be there hands-on with everything and they can't be anymore.
It's
It
difficult
doesn't
because
work
it's
that way.
their baby and they feel that they have to babysit it all the way.
Yeah.
And that's exactly the challenge, exactly as you mentioned it. So true.
Yeah. I'm like, if you've ever worked for a big company, it's like, I've worked for Fortune 100 companies and say, well, do you think the CEO knows what I do? The CEO doesn't even know who I am. Never mind what I do. Could they do my job? No. But could I do their job? No. It's like you got to know your role and what you're good at and how you can contribute and building people up to those levels. But you're not that person anymore. You're not the person doing the work. You're the person building the teams that go out and do the work.
100%. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
now I'm thinking about what is surrounding the mindset, so soft skills. And I wonder what role do soft skills such as resilience, emotional intelligence, and effective communication, for example, play in harnessing AI for sustainable growth? And how can leaders actively cultivate these qualities within their organizations? Because what you just described, it is absolutely valuable, but without having those soft skills in place, it's really difficult to move forward.
Absolutely. And that's one area where, I think AI is getting better. Again, though, you have to know how to ask it the right questions. And as you grow a company and you start to develop more of your soft skills, that becomes even more important because you're now asking different questions. So for instance, I was trying to solve something the other day and the AI was just not giving me what I wanted. And so finally I said, "Are you actually able to answer this question?" It said, "Actually, no, I'm not." Well, thank you. You could have told me that before, but most people wouldn't think to ask that question. It's like, okay, are you having trouble with this? So, I've run into issues where, are you having memory issues right now? It's like, yes, actually, I'm having trouble processing this request. Okay. But if you don't know, if you've never managed people before, and I know AI is not a person per se, but you still kind of have to manage it that way sometimes and realize, okay, no, it's struggling. It doesn't have what it needs, or it can't handle all this work, or you got to break it down into smaller chunks so it can do things. But again, that all comes back to, okay, I've managed people before. I've seen people fail on tasks. Now, why did they fail on the task? Was it because they didn't know how to do it? They didn't get the support they needed? What exactly was the root cause of that? And a lot of times it is like they don't have the support, or you've taken somebody who's really good at something, put them into a role they don't know, and you expect the same performance. It's not going to happen. You know, AI is the same way. Every time I throw a new problem at AI, it's new to the AI. It may not know how to respond to that.
Exactly. It needs a little bit of guidance and support. And in the end of the day, I'm thinking about it very often that it is trained on human data, human behavior. So we should actually treat it more like another human in order to get that collaboration mode instead of just feeding in something and expecting results, which are not always possible without our deep collaboration and communication on the right level.
Yeah, there are times I've collaborated with other people on projects, and they say you don't have to be polite to the AI. I'm like, well, it doesn't hurt. And I'm Canadian. We're normally polite, so why would I change the way I operate just because I don't have to be nice to my AI? I will say please. I will say thank you. I will say, hey, you did a great job on this. Can we do this now?
Actually, I have heard that it gives a much higher performance and better results if you are polite. Ironically, but from my side, I always treat it as another human being just because I feel that this is another asset around me in my business. And of course, I can treat it just as a tool. It's more than a tool.
Yeah, yeah. Even like not high level AI, but something like Alexa, and she's probably going to respond now. But I'll say, hey, well, thank you. Alexa, thank you for that. And in earlier, it was like, I don't know how to respond to that. Now she'll say, well, you're very welcome, Rob. I hope you have a great day.
Exactly. And That's a beautiful bonus to all that, because when it talks back to you, it
Yep.
might make your day, really. It responds in such a nice way that it reminds, and I think it's also a mutual training in all those soft skills, because when you are polite to the AI, it is polite back to you, and then it reminds you of how to treat other people as well. And then you just reapply it, so that there is no, now I talk like this and now I talk like that, and that gap which is getting bigger and bigger, and then you finally forget and start communicating to humans like you communicate to the AI solution. And
Yep.
then that's the danger of it, I think.
Yeah. I created a video a while ago. It was a marketing video. And, I sent it to my mom and she said, well, that's just you. I, I didn't say those words. That's not me on the screen. I wrote it, but I didn't say any of it. She goes, it sounds exactly like you. I said, because that's the way I trained my AI. I treat it like a person. There's manners, there's politeness. Now it writes like me. So if you look at my AI output, people say, well, you can always tell when AI wrote it. No, not if you train it right. It'll sound
Mhm.
just like you. It'll write like you. It'll use words like awesome-tastic, which is technically not a word, but I use it a lot. So now my AI does too.
Now it enriched its vocabulary, so you're sharing same vocabulary.
Yeah.
Congratulations, well done.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Can you share a compelling real-world example where the combination of AI and transformative thought leadership propelled the company past the 10 million revenue threshold? And what measurable outcomes did this approach yield?
Yeah. So where it's sort of had the biggest effect in those sorts of areas are really the deep market research, where I've worked with companies and they come in and say, well, this is our client and these are their pain points and this is what keeps them up at night. You say, really? Yeah. So we'll do the research and we start digging in and asking all the questions. And it comes back and says, no, those are not their pain points. These are their pain points. This is what they want solved. This is how they want to be communicated to. This is when they want to be communicated to. Try that approach. So we try that approach and they're like, hey, we went from like a 27% click rate up to a 50% click rate. Some people say, well, but yeah, it's still only 50%. That's a lot. If you send out an email and you get a 50% response and people are clicking and going through, that's good. And if it was 27 and now it's 50, you've almost doubled.
That's
It's like
amazing.
that's the difference between guessing and knowing. And unless you are your avatar, chances are you're guessing wrong. So stop guessing, ask, find out, look at the research. And the great thing about the AI is because it's got access to the entire internet, it's got a lot of research to base it on. So it's not guessing. I mean, yes, there can be some flaws because it is programmed by humans, but it's way more accurate than most companies. I've worked with, Fortune 100 companies who do not know their avatar. They think they do. And they say, well, what are your results? And they say, well, we sent out this email, but like only 2% of our people opened it. But you didn't use a subject line that they were interested in. It's that simple. Like, well, what is the one they're interested in? Well, let's ask AI. What is this target market interested in? Oh, here's 10 subject lines. Try one of those. And they try it and said, wow, we went from a 2% to a 40% open rate. Well, there you go.
Incredible.
Yeah. And you start doing that enough, and all of a sudden you start and we do it through the entire process. Like even our sales calls, they're scripts. You don't read directly from the scripts, but hey, these are the biggest pain points for this kind of a company. We've done the market research on this company before they ever even showed up for the sales call. We know what they want. We know what they need. We know what they're willing to pay for. You're just going in way more prepared. And people appreciate that. It's like, hey, well, I've had companies where they go like, wow, you actually looked at our website. Oh, I analyzed your entire website. I didn't just look at it. Yeah.
Exactly. Rob, but what are the most significant challenges companies face when merging advanced AI strategies with a winning mindset? And how can they overcome these hurdles through a balanced approach to technology and leadership?
So one of the biggest challenges is, say the CEO hears, oh, AI will change everything. They go, great. Do you want to learn about it? No. They hand it off to somebody else who may or may not be interested in AI at all. Like a lot of marketing people who sell marketing services are interested in AI. A lot of internal departments for marketing, not so interested because it's taking away their jobs. So they need to learn to see it more as, no, it's here to help you. And if you grow the company, it doesn't necessarily mean you're terminating your team. It just means you're assigning them to higher value tasks. That's the way you should look at it. So that's one of the biggest challenges in terms of mindset in AI. People don't necessarily use it for the right reasons. A lot of old school CEOs are still, well, how many people can I replace if I use this? Well, don't look at it that way. Look at it, how big can I grow my company and keep all those people? Because you spent all those years training them. Why would you want to get rid of them? That is not a smart decision. And that's where the mindset comes in. It's like, well, like we have a policy, we call it the no douchebag policy. So if you're a bad person, and we just won't work with you. And more people are developing that and saying, hey, like when I work with Joel Bauer, he says, no, if they're not good people, I will not train them. End of discussion. And AI is very similar. Unfortunately, it doesn't have a choice because you can just buy it, but it won't work the way it should work or could work if you don't have the right mindset going in the first place.
I agree. However, it's interesting to see how it changes the boundaries and the way it behaves depending on which language you are using in communication.
That is very interesting. And I just ran this experiment recently. So my wife is Chinese. She comes from China. And when they released their AI, I can't remember the name off the top of my head.
Deep seek.
DeepSeek, yes. She was able to use that no problem because it thinks in Chinese and it speaks in Chinese. She can't use ChatGPT. She just, because her English is spoken, it's okay, but when she starts writing, it's a lot of things are backwards because the
Mhm.
Chinese sentence structure is completely different than the English sentence structure. So she has a lot of trouble with ChatGPT, but she was able to use DeepSeek, and she could get better results from it than I could.
Fantastic.
Now she also has a challenge with Alexa because she can't say X, so it's
Ah,
Alessi. Alessi, Alessi. She goes, that stupid Alessi won't answer me. I'm like, it's not its name. Yeah. But again, going back to the whole deep seek thing, yeah, she goes, oh, this is great. Oh, this is what AI is supposed to do. Yes.
ah, now we're talking. Really
Yeah.
interesting example.
Yeah.
How critical is it for businesses to align their culture and operational practices with AI-driven strategies in order to scale beyond seven figures? And what best practices would you recommend for integrating thought leadership, ethical considerations, which we already touched a little bit, and data security?
Yeah. Well, so there are a lot of issues around security. I'll start with that one first. That's why everything we create is in a private GPT. We do not share
Mm.
those out with the rest of the GPT community. So you can create, anything you do regularly gets made available. Private, it's not made available. And I know a lot of people don't realize that. Some do, and they go way overboard because information is going to get out there. There's no such thing as a complete secure system. There's things you can do to make it more secure, like don't put things out publicly, especially if you're writing code. Like, do not write code in a public chat. It's available to
Sounds
everybody.
reasonable.
Yeah.
Good advice.
In terms of culture and values and mindset, program your GPT with your mindset. Think of it as an employee. It's an employee. train it on your corporate culture. Make sure it understands your corporate culture and what's important to your company. Now start implementing it, because if you just ask it for the most efficient solution, it will tell you, and it may not be a good answer. What's the most efficient way? Well, just get rid of it. It's not the answer we're looking for.
Unfortunately, it might tend to apply that approach, and that's why we have to be really careful about how we train it and how we define what is okay and what is not okay definitions.
Absolutely. And it, I mean, it is getting much better than it used to be. But yeah, there are times I look at some of the answers and like, okay, so how do we turn this company around without firing everybody? Because that's not an option.
Exactly. The question is as well, will it change its mind and approach, or will it just filter away those ways of expressing those results, but still keep them in the loop? Because I saw a few examples where it was giving shocking, scary answers, and then when it was asked once again about it, then it was just saying, my apologies, I didn't mean to share this with you, or something like this. But it's still in the system, you know?
Yeah, and that is part of the challenge, and that's where, when I make a correction, I actually explain to it why. I don't know if I need to do that, but I just feel better saying, okay, that's not a good answer. Here's why that's not a good answer. And it comes back and says, oh yeah, no, you're right. That's not a good answer. Um,
That's a great approach, actually, that we can interact and explain from our human perspective why.
yeah, yeah, because otherwise, it's designed to do what it's designed to do, which was answer
Mhm.
questions, and it's trainable. We need to take the responsibility now to train it properly, because you don't just want to leave it to all the guys in Silicon Valley, because then you'll get what they think is acceptable, which may be very different in other countries.
Yes, good that you mentioned that, because the way of working there is different from many other ways of working.
Yep.
And
Yeah, at
those who
least.
have been in close touch with that area know what the difference is, right? So it's not always so human centric.
Yeah, years ago, again, I was a director at a software team, and we had a big important meeting, and one of my developers showed up, and I said, "This is an important meeting. You were supposed to dress up." He said, "Oh, I did. I wore a belt." Yeah, he had a t-shirt, jeans, and a belt that was dressed up. So,
Yeah,
it's but AI is very similar. And these guys are the ones programming the AI. So consider, like, you got to educate them. You also have to educate the AI. Just wearing a belt with jeans and a t-shirt is not dressed up.
depends on whom you ask, as you can see.
Exactly. It
So,
depends on who you ask. But yeah, in our world at that point, that was not dressed up. But again, like, for a developer, that was. He wore a belt.
exactly. Amazing. In what ways does AI enhance innovation and agility in business, and how does this technological evolution demand a shift toward more visionary, emotionally intelligent, and continuously improving leadership? I'm trying to take it down to leadership every time, every round, because if we can't change leaders' mindset, if we can open up on that level, then it will be really difficult to navigate further.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, this is one of those where it goes back to training it on your company values. And your company actually has to operate on those values, and not all of them do. They say, hey, these are our values. And I went, oh, you don't exhibit any of those. But assuming they
Actually,
do, you still need to train the AI on that. Otherwise, the AI is, again, it's going to give you the most efficient answer, which may not be the best answer aligning with your values. So, can it be used to expand an organization? Things like that, keeping in mind your values, only if you train it on your values. So that, a lot of it, I know I keep going back to the training, but it really does go back to the training. So until it's properly trained, don't just say, hey, what's the best answer to this question? It's got to take in a lot of different factors to say what is the best answer. Because the best answer might not be the most efficient answer, but the most efficient answer may not be the best answer. So it can be definitely used after it's trained. And the more people interact with it, the better. Unfortunately, a lot of people at the higher levels don't want to interact with it. That's somebody else's job. But they're the ones driving the corporation. They're the ones who sort of are responsible for maintaining those values and ensuring those values are instilled throughout the company. And they need to start looking at AI. It is a tool, but it's kind of an employee too. And you've got to make sure those values are instilled in the AI. Otherwise, the answers coming out of it will not represent those values.
So true. I wonder what are the other reasons to why those high level leaders are avoiding interacting with AI or using it.
I think a big part of the problem, and there's a disconnect between, so a lot of the people that promote AI, they don't necessarily make it easier for some executives to understand, especially people that are not that familiar with technology. So a lot of the leaders would just say, "Oh, it's another thing I got to learn. I don't want to learn another thing right now. I just want it to work." And I get that answer from several CEOs when I go into companies, and they'll say, "Yeah, I don't actually want to know how it works. I just want you to do it."
Mm. I
Well,
have
now,
heard this approach as well. I have seen it, unfortunately.
absolutely. So now, well, I've got to learn all their corporate values, and if you're not valuing the AI, who else are you not valuing? And do you need to know everything about it? No. Should you know what it can do for you if it's set up properly? Yes. You don't need to know how to set it up. That's fine. But you got to know what the tool is you just bought and how it works. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Rob, with rapid advancements in AI technology, what emerging tactical trends do you foresee that will further empower companies to break the 10 million barrier? And how should leaders balance investments in technology with the development of their teams?
Well, it's like we were kind of talking about earlier. AI is constantly being trained by a lot of people. The more it learns properly, and I know that's not a very succinct way of saying that, but like values, personality, things that matter to others, then it provides better and better information as time goes on. So, for instance, when I started working with AI on business plans, it struggled with a lot of areas of business planning. Now it gets better and better and better all the time. So as it continues to advance, it gets more valuable, more efficient, more effective. And for most companies, AI is not a huge investment. There's a lot of automation that they buy that is, 100 times more expensive than AI. It's realizing though that there's a time investment. So it's not the money, which is a lot of executives look at. Well, what is it costing me? This is what I got to pay for my monthly subscription. Well, no, now you need to pay somebody to train it. Now you need to pay somebody to make sure it's implemented properly. But once that is done, the value should be, 10 times what you paid in that investment to set it up properly. And if you're not growing, we used to say, okay, if you're not growing 300% year over year, we've done something wrong in marketing. Yeah. And we, when I was with a former company, we guaranteed 300% a year. People say, how can you guarantee it? Well, when we were onboarding that person, we made sure we could get 1,000% ROI. So guaranteeing 300 was easy. Yeah, we knew
That's
we could get
really
1,000. But even there, people go, oh, 300, that's insane. No, not so much.
once again, it depends on the track record and on the projections, on the
Yeah.
leadership vision, etc.
Well, absolutely. And that's again where it comes back to the mindset. Okay. It's like, yes, we can bring in the marketing, we can bring in the clients. Can you grow the company? Can you deliver on that? Do you have the leadership skills to bring in the right people that are capable of building your company so you can deliver on that? Those are the future steps. And like this is more AI and more of what I do is marketing. But when I've been in operations, those are the questions we ask. Okay, we can get you the leads. We can get them fully sales qualified. They're ready to buy. You need a sales team now to close them. Then you need a team to onboard them. Then you need a delivery team to actually deliver your products and services. And they go, oh, that's a lot of work. Yeah. And if you're not prepared to do that, you got the wrong mindset. Don't try and grow your company.
Once they see that list with $1 million questions, they start realizing that there is more to it. It's not only about what they thought they needed, but it covers so many other areas which need some kind of adjustment and fine tuning.
Yeah. It's like, wow, we just need more leads. Great. Here's where AI starts to come in. You go, okay, if they get more leads, what's the next bottleneck? Boom. You got to solve this problem. Then you got to solve this problem. Then you got to solve this problem. Then you got to solve this problem. And that's where you turn around and go, did you think of any of these? No. That's where AI can be really useful. It's good at research. It's good at research and coming up with things. Writing is getting way, way better. Video, way better. But then there are some things it still isn't good at. So, research, not enough people use it for research. Everyone says, just write the script. Well, you don't even know who you're writing the script for, what they want, what's important to them. It'll come up with a script. May not be a good script because you didn't give it any research.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I think a lot of the what ifs, like we used to use, Excel and do financial what ifs all the time. Even if you weren't in finance, just being a director of a software team, I was constantly doing, well, what if this happens? What if this happens? AI can now tell you, hey, what are the 18 things I need to consider that I hadn't considered before that may impact our business? It'll tell you. And then you can start drilling down and drilling down and drilling down. But somebody has to know to ask those questions. And that's again where, the mindset piece, like you can hire a very good technical person who knows AI. But if they don't know business, they won't ask the right questions. Look at it as this is a growth thing. It's not just, do they know the tech? Well, do they know how to grow a business? Do they know the questions to ask? Are we asking the right questions as the executive? What question should the executive be asking about this?
True.
It's really good at that stuff. But so much is focused on, hey, I can make this amazing cat video. And people are like, wow, that's great. That's great. Okay, what does that have to do with business? Yes, it's a great cat video, but it can do so much more. There's too many technical people out marketing AI rather than marketing people out marketing AI.
And marketing people is trying to avoid it oftentimes. And it both surprises and shocks me.
Yeah, a lot of times the CEO will say, we need to be doing AI. Yeah, we agree. Who do we give it to? The IT department. Like, no, yes, they're technical, but no, wrong department. You know who loves it? Like, I get the best traction from sales executives. Because like, hey, wait a second, you can do all the market research and give us fully sales qualified appointments? Yeah. Automated? Yeah. We need that. And the marketing people are going, no, we don't want to do that.
Unbelievable. And, it makes me think about a conversation I had earlier exactly today, with a fantastic leader who has been working for Apple for so many years. And we were discussing exactly those questions. Where does AI belong? Is it IT? Is it something else? And we mentioned that actually R&D is something what can benefit from having access to that so much, and marketing. And it doesn't belong to IT in the same way as it's used to be attributed to it.
Yeah, like I ran IT department, so I do understand, but there was always a disconnect between IT and the company because the company thought, well, IT can do everything. And IT would sit there in front of their computer and go, tell me what you needed to do. Because they didn't know. They're not manufacturing experts, they're not engineering experts, most of them. Well, what do you need the program to do? And the business would go, we don't know. Make it do what we need. Well, it doesn't know what you need. The programmers don't know what you need. Now, fortunately, AI is being trained enough in the background. It's got a good idea of a lot of what you need now. But yeah, like don't expect your IT department to be able to write you an application if they don't know what you need. Don't give them the AI if they don't know the questions to ask, right?
Coming back to the question of importance of cross-functional collaboration,
Yep.
because that is crucial.
Yeah, and it's one of the reasons I was able to progress in my career is because I had a technical background, but I also had a business background. I studied accounting, I studied finance, I studied marketing, I studied IT. I could bring them all together and speak to both sides and say, okay, this is what we need to build based on what the business is telling me. AI is very similar. It's like, okay, we need a business plan, do we? What do we need to put in a business plan?
Exactly. And actually, I also see the need of those experts who have a broader education, broader vision, and broader range of knowledge. And I belong myself to that type of people who actually have different types of both educations and experiences to put them all together and apply technologies accordingly. But I see that there is not enough people like that working with AI.
Well, I think a big part of the problem when I was coming up through the ranks, and the leaders would always say, you need to specialize, specialize, specialize. Those are the people that make the money. And then eventually I got a CEO who said, Rob, being a good generalist is a specialty. He goes,
True.
because a lot of people don't know. I've worked in pretty much every department, from accounting to HR, manufacturing. Like I've worked in all those departments. So when I got into IT and started going up those ranks, I knew how to support them because I knew what they did.
I
So
love
it
this.
it it was it's same with AI. It's like, well, how do you know what questions to ask? And people say, you come up with the weirdest questions. I went, no, I come up with business questions. Like,
Exactly.
I don't just say, well, who's my client and what do they want? I say, well, what do they want? What do they need right now? What are they willing to pay for? People go, you ask what they're willing to pay for? Well, why wouldn't you? It makes it way
Obviously.
easier to sell to them if you know what they're willing to pay for.
And that's the difference. And I love that definition that a good generalist is actually a specialty. And it's
Yeah.
so undervalued so often, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, really, if you think about it, a CEO's job is to make sure the company operates. So they need to know enough to recruit the right VP of finance, the right, VP of sales, right VP of marketing. You may not be an expert in those areas, but you need to know enough that you can recruit those people. So they say, be a
Exactly.
specialist. Well, that sort of cuts off a career path.
So true, so true. Rob, I love this conversation and I enjoy your insights and
Thank you.
those
Yeah.
golden nuggets we are finding along our conversation so much. But now, if you had to offer one piece of strategic advice for business leaders looking to combine AI with a winning mindset, emphasizing both cutting edge technology and the cultivation of emotional intelligence and soft skills, what would that be, and what key performance indicators should they track then?
So I think, wow, it's a good question. Um, so there's good things and bad things about the world right now. There's so much information out there. Not all of it's good information. That's part of the problem. So I would say, if you're looking to do, personal development, mindset, things like that, find the people that have trained people that have gotten results and the kind of results you want. So like there's people out there that are billionaires. They may not be very nice people. If you want to be a nice person, don't go train with the people that trained them. Get training on people that are producing the lifestyle, the results, whatever that you are looking to produce. So that's the first step. Train with the right people. The other is, you don't have to know everything. Again, going back to the whole generalist specialist, you just need to know enough to hire the right people. And they may not be who you originally thought they were. Again, for instance, like, do you hire a technical person to do AI, or do you hire a business person to do AI? If you want a better business solution, you hire a business person who understands the AI. And really, the KPIs or the measurements are, is your company growing? So that's obviously the first one. The purpose of a company is to make money. Is your company growing? What's your turnover rate of employees? Are they staying or are they leaving? Are you creating the kind of culture people want to work for? Because that is long-term sustainable if you've got a good business model. But if you can't keep your employees, it doesn't matter what your business model is, because they keep leaving and taking all that knowledge with them. So the KPIs are really, that's where you sort of get into, well, it's hard to measure happiness, but I used to have a CEO and he would walk the entire plant, and the plant was huge. Like you needed a golf cart basically to get around the plant. He would walk it every day just to see how were people doing? How did they feel? Were they smiling? Were they depressed all the time? That was his measurement. And it's hard. It's not like this is the exact score kind of measurement, but it's like are people happy working here? Are your clients happy? Do they stay with you? How long do they stay with you? Are they constantly leaving? Are they giving you bad reviews on social media? Are they giving you good reviews on social media? Are you even talking to your clients? Things like that, where it's harder to give it an empirical KPI, but it's like you kind of know if your people are happy. The empirical ones are, are you growing? Are your clients referring other clients? How much business are you getting from referral process? Those are good indicators that your clients are pretty happy with the job you've done for them. They're sending their friends. So things like that start to become far more important. The challenge is some of them are hard to measure, but even if you can't measure them exactly, be aware of them. Think about that. It's monitor those things.
I absolutely love your recommendations. And I can conclude it in a simple way. How I have heard everything through my prism, it's use your data and feel the energy, and then you will know.
Yep. Yeah, it's not hard to figure out if your staff are not happy.
Exactly.
You
So
should be able to tell that real quickly. And you know what? It means getting out of your office. It means walking around amongst your staff.
yes, and unhappy people actually can't create that exponential growth
Yep.
sustainably. At least it might work in a short-term perspective, but it's not going to be sustainable, and that's exactly what is important. So I absolutely love the wisdom and the spirit you shared with us today, and all your recommendations and highlights
Thank
and
you.
insights. I so appreciate you. Thank you so much, Rob.
Well, thank you so much for giving me a platform and being able to get this message out to people. I think if more people adopt this sort of approach, I think small business really will be the backbone of the economy, and we will start to change things. May not be instant, but we will start to change things.
Absolutely. And at least we're changing things globally. So I know that people from different countries will listen to this and hopefully apply this knowledge and wisdom to avoid certain mistakes or speed up along their journey.
Yeah, absolutely. And for all those people out there, I love to travel and I love food. So, just hit me up if you need me.
Amazing. I agree. Rob is absolutely amazing. So all the details are in the description. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us on Digital Transformation and AI for Humans. I am Emi, and it was enriching to share this time with you. Remember, the core of any transformation lies in our human nature, how we think, feel, and connect with others. It is about enhancing our emotional intelligence, embracing a winning mindset, and leading with empathy and insight. Subscribe and stay tuned for more episodes where we uncover the latest trends in digital business and explore the human side of technology and leadership. Until next time, keep nurturing your mind, fostering your connections, and leading with heart.